number 16 from your home or from your test. This was actually review material. So this is not new stuff for you guys in this unit. You had to divide x to the 4th plus 15x cubed minus 77x squared plus 13x minus 36 by x minus 4. Now if you did the review the day before the test, then you probably got this one perfect, because there was a question just like this on your review. But if you didn't do your review, it's likely that you forgot how to do this. Who remembers what we did when we were asked to divide things like this a couple tests ago? Okay. So we looked at this, the thing that we're dividing by, and we took that 4 out of there and we put it in a box. Now one thing that we had to remember was we take this and we change the sign on it before we put it in the box. So if it's in parentheses like that, it's lying to us. We change the sign, we put it in the box, then we write out the coefficient. So we have a 1 and a 15 and a negative 77 and a 13 and a negative 36. Now if you remember correctly, guys, don't be eating in class. If you remember correctly, we have in the past had to put zeros in our list of numbers here in pink. Mason, don't eat in class. Don't put stuff in your mouth after I ask you not to. Okay, just saw you. I'm standing right here. Okay, so what would be a situation where I would put a 0 where the 15 is? What would be a situation where I would have to put a 0 where the 15 is? If it didn't have an x cubed in the list at all. If that was missing, then I would have to put a 0 to save the place for the x cubed term. But since everything's accounted for here, we're good to go. Now once we have all our numbers set up, how do we start the process of dividing? Good. We bring this 1 down below the line, and then we multiply and we add. Charles, focus. All right, we're looking up there, not at Takia. I wouldn't say anything funny, though. I don't know what you're laughing about. Okay, 1 times 4 is 4, and then we add. 15 plus 4 is 19. Then we multiply again, but this time we're multiplying what? Something times something, but not the negative 77. What gets multiplied? 19 times 4. So we always take the number below the line, multiply it by the number in the box, and put it in the next empty space above the line. So what is 19 times 4? Awesome. So I multiply and then I add. What's negative 77 plus 76? -1. -1. Now what do I multiply? -1 times 4 is -4, and we add and we get
9.
Now we multiply what?
9 and 4.
9 and 4, we get, and we add. What do we get when we add?
0. There's no remainder.
Okay, so we have no remainder, which means that we can get our answer from the information that we have before we get to the 0. So how do we write our answer? It's not going to be just these numbers. Brianna?
19x cubed minus 1x squared 9x.
You're so close. You just forgot about this 1 up here.
Oh, my bad. So 1x cubed is 19x squared minus 13x plus 9.
There you go. All right, and why did you choose to start with an x cubed?
Because I don't know why would you told us to do that.
You take down from the x4.
Good. You look at what you had up here. We had an x to the 4th up there. Division always gives us something smaller than what we had before. So if we had an x to the 4th, now we have an x cubed. So we're going down 1 degree. Reese?
Why is there a negative 13x?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I don't know where I got that from. Thanks, Reese. All right.
Negative 1x too, couldn't it?
You could put a -1 there if you wanted to, but it's understood anyways. So we don't have to put the 1. Kind of like we didn't have to put the 1 at the beginning either. It's understood to be there. Okay, so that's number 16. Fix it if you didn't have it right. And let's look at number 17 now. Number 17 is another review problem. And in number 17, you're asked to solve a system of equations by elimination to see which method you're using. So if you don't want to solve by elimination, you've got another method that you know of that's easier for you. That's fine. You just have to get the right answer. What is an easy way to get these answers correct, even if you've forgotten how to solve these problems completely? You got all the answers there, plug them in and see which one works. So you could substitute in answer for letter A, see if it works. If it doesn't, try the next one. Remember to substitute into both of the equations. Otherwise, you may get one that works in one but not the other. If it says solve by elimination, though, what's the procedure for doing that? If it was short answer and you had to do elimination, what would you do? I think I heard someone say combine like terms. When we eliminate, we're trying to get rid of one of the two variables. Which of the variables is going to be easy to get rid of here? Yep, Damien? The 4y. And what would we do with these two equations to eliminate the 4y?
Well, depending on which one you want to get rid of, you could either add 4y or minus 4y.
Okay, so if we're trying to get rid of 4y, if we add 4y plus the negative 4y, will the 4y's be gone? Yeah, what if we subtracted? Because I heard someone say we could subtract. What's 4y take away negative 4y? That's an 8y, so it's not eliminated. Lexi?
So it's multiple choice, right? So
This part was multiple choice. That doesn't mean you'll always have multiple choice
no, I know.
on
I was
this.
just
Yeah.
saying. So for like on multiple choice instances, if it says use elimination, you could still use like
Yeah,
substitution.
that's what we were talking about before. Yep. So I'm going to add these two things together. What is negative 4x plus an x? What do I get when I add those? Negative 3x. And what is 4y plus negative 4y? Positive plus negative are the same thing as 0. That's the whole point of this. We're eliminating that part by adding these together, and since they're opposite signs, they're going to be 0 when we add them. What is negative 7 plus negative 8? Negative 15. So what do I have to do to get the x? Divide by negative 3, both sides. So what's x going to be equal to? X is equal to 5. Now, if you look at your answer choices, we haven't found out what y is yet, but if you look at those answer choices, there's only one answer choice where the x value is 5. And in that answer choice, the y value is 3. So it's got to be 3, even if I didn't do the rest of the work. Do what?
Just plug in your x and then
Yep. Yeah, so if it wasn't multiple choice, what Brianna's saying is exactly what we'd have to do. We'd have to substitute that x value, that 5, into the equation to see what we get for y. So I would probably use this equation. 5 minus 4y equals negative 7. And then I'd subtract 5 from both sides. And I get negative 12. And I'd divide by negative 4 and get 3. So if you've got multiple choice, use that to your advantage. You don't have to think quite as hard as you would otherwise. Put it up, turn it off. I don't want to see it again. Okay. All right, number 18, more review problems. In number 18, this time, you were asked to solve an equation, and the equation you were given was this guy. How do you solve an equation that looks like this?
You gotta factor it.
You got to factor it. What's the first step in factoring that we forget a lot? We forget about GCFs. Does this one have it? Yeah, so let's take out a GCF. What would be our GCF? 4. Divide everything by a 4. Tell us what we have left over. An x squared, 7x, and a minus 8. Good. Okay. Now, beyond GCF, there are other things we can do, and you guys did these back on numbers 1 through 10 that we worked on a few days ago. We can factor this into a couple sets of parentheses because x times x gives us x squared. But what do we need to make the 7x and the negative 8 happen? What multiplies to give us negative 8, adds to give us 7? Lexi, what you got?
Positive 8 and negative 1.
Good job. Positive 8 and negative 1. Now what we've done here is we've factored, but factoring is not solving. If we want to solve something, we have to figure out what x is. And I don't know that right now. So how do I figure out what x is? Set equal to 0. What do we mean by Set equal to 0. What's
Set your
The factors in parentheses. We set them equal to 0. So we set this one equal to 0, and we get x is going to equal negative 8. We set the other one equal to 0. We get x is going to equal positive 1. And a lot of times I get questions about this 4. What would we do with that? If we set 4 equal to 0, what's the solution to that equation? There isn't one. 4 does not equal 0. Never has, never will. So we have no solution to this part. Empty set, no solution. So our two answers are negative 8 and positive 1. And that finishes up that problem. Once again, if you have multiple choice, you could have figured out those two are the solutions just by plugging them into the original equation. So there's always an option here. In number 19, this time we have c cubed minus 512, and you are asked to factor. Not to solve, just to factor. So we don't need to know what c is. We just need you guys to tell us what the factors of c cubed minus 512 are. Now this was something that if you practiced on your review the previous day, you probably got it right. But if you didn't do your review, you probably missed this. There's a formula for factoring difference of squares. It's in your packet from a couple of units ago. I'm going to write it down here. A cubed minus b cubed is equal to, does anybody remember? Brianna?
isn't it A? No, wait.
You're right.
I know the last part was just the.
Okay. All right. Lexi, see what you can do.
Is this one that's like AB A squared, ABB squared?
Yeah, AB a squared, AB b squared, and we fill in the signs with,
So
Depends on what the first one is. If it's that,
Right.
it would be negative and plus.
good, same sign, then the opposite sign, then always the positive sign. And our word for that was soap. So for some people that helps them remember, otherwise you just got to remember how the signs work out. So what would A be here? What's being cubed first? C is. So the first thing we're going to write everywhere where we see an A in this problem is a C. So I've got C times some or minus something, and then I have a C squared, and then I have a C times something after the plus sign, and then no C's after that. What are we cubing in the 512 that we see? 8. 8 times 8 times 8 is 512. That's one that you may have to do a cubed root for. You can get that out of your calculator. Cubed root of 512, that's underneath math, if you want to go there. But Sabria helped us out. So B is going to be 8. Everywhere we see a B, we're going to put an 8 in there. So I'm going to do 8 squared as well, which is 64. So substitute your values into the formula, but you can't really do that if you don't know the formula. So it's important to study, practice that. We have one more problem on the multiple choice, and then tomorrow we'll do the short answer. So on number 20, last problem, you are asked to simplify the expression. It's got some i's in it. When you guys saw this on your review the day before the test, a lot of you put in your calculator, which is okay. You can do that. You just got to know where the I button is. The I button is on your calculator button keypad. Where? It's second and then which button? Second decimal. All right, this you can grab one real quick. Second decimal. You can press second decimal, type an I in there, and get this question perfect. If you forget how to use your calculator, though, this is just foiling using the box method, whatever you prefer to do. That's going to be a negative 2. And then I've got a positive 10i. Then I've got a negative 5i. And finally, I have a positive 25i squared. What do you guys remember learning about I squareds? I squared is equal to -1. And what's -1 times the 25 we have beside it? -25. What do I get when I combine these? That's a 5i. And so now I just have the -2 to put together with the 25, because those are like terms, and it gives us -27 and a 5i. But your calculator will tell you that too.
What'd you put that on?
You just type it in just like this top thing, parentheses. I would have to do 2 to the x power equals 7. But can anyone think of a power of 2 that'll give you a 7? 2 raised to the second power is 4. 2 raised to the third power is 8. What's the number in the middle that if I raise 2 to that power, I get a 7? Well, that's not very evident, is it? So in order to figure this out, we're going to have to use another formula.